If the woods and waters of Columbus, Georgia could talk, what stories they'd tell. Indian uprisings and the fight for peace. Sailors waging war 200 miles inland, and generations of boys turned warriors standing up to protect this great nation.
When you bring your reunion to Columbus, the voices of history will speak to you as you travel the trail of American military history.
The newest stop on the trail is the $100 million National Infantry Museum and Soldier Center, dedicated to the legacy of valor and sacrifice of the infantrymen. The National Civil War Naval Museum at Port Columbus tells the little-known role of the Confederate and Union navies even 200 miles inland. And Fort Mitchell, just across the Chattahoochee River in Alabama, recalls a time when southern states were just being formed. Today, a reconstructed fort, cemetery, log cabin, and visitors center bring the early 1800s to life, when the United States signed a treaty with the Creek Indians to use their land to create a route connecting Fort Hawkins near Macon, Georgia, with Fort Mims near Mobile, Alabama. The route became known as the Federal Road, which was heavily used by troops, stagecoaches, and settlers moving west. The fort was built in 1813 when Indians armed with weapons provided by the British turned hostile to the Americans. Hundreds of Georgia militiamen and friendly Indians teamed up to restore peace. Later, Fort Mitchell became the site for the government's Indian Agency. You'll savor these stories as you stroll through the museum. Scenes and events from history are recreated, and pieces of the past, arrowheads, musket balls, guns, and pottery bring that history alive. A carriage house protects antique and reproduction carriages from the era, including a glossy red stagecoach, an elegant black hearse, even a surrey with fringe on top. As the war between the states heated up, Fort Mitchell became a training camp for the 15th Alabama Regiment. At the same time, the South formed the Confederate States Navy to protect southern coastlines from invasion and to break the Union blockade.
Today, the National Civil War Naval Museum in Port Columbus is the only museum in the nation dedicated to telling the little-known story of maritime operations during the war.
The first thing you'll see on the grounds at this unique museum is the USS Water Witch, a 160-foot replica of a Union side-wheeler captured by the Confederates in 1864. Go on board and search the river's horizon for Union troops. Inside, your senses are immediately taken back in time. The museum is built around the 225-foot hull of the CSS Jackson, a nearly finished ironclad set afire by Union troops in 1865. It was raised from the Chattahoochee riverbed a century later, and the smell of burnt wood lingers to this day, an almost tangible connection to the past. The 40,000 square foot museum also features models of the USS Monitor, the USS Hartford, and the CSS Albemarle. Walk inside for an up-close look at life in the Confederate Navy. A simulator takes you up the Chattahoochee River as Union troops fire 450-pound cannonballs around you. And the collection of flags, uniforms, weapons, and equipment is spectacular. A Civil War buff who's logged thousands of miles across land battlefields will be surprised and enlightened after experiencing this chapter in military history. Just a few minutes away, you'll hear a story that's been more than 230 years in the making. It is the story of the American infantryman, whose branch was formed in 1775, even before the nation's birth.
The National Infantry Museum and Soldier Center at Patriot Park is a brand new world-class facility that pays tribute to the foot soldiers who won our freedom generations ago and who fight to this day to preserve it.
The museum's signature attraction, the last 100 yards, recreates 8 of the infantry's most notorious battles with lifelike figures and theatrical lighting, sounds, music, and effects. Your journey through Yorktown, Antietam, Soissons, Omaha Beach, LZ X-Ray, and the deserts of Iraq will set the stage for an unforgettable visit. Beyond the ramp are galleries that trace each major period in infantry history. They feature immersive experiences like a World War I trench from which you can peer through a periscope at no man's land. and a glass-enclosed Vietnam jungle where an ill-defined battle line is drawn amid heat and humidity and bursts of gunfire piercing the silence. The Fort Benning Gallery demonstrates what it takes to turn young men into soldiers. It also tells the story of the unique relationship the community of Columbus and its Army Post neighbor have enjoyed since 1918. The museum's family gallery pays tribute to the sacrifices made by wives, parents, and children of soldiers. And the kids can try on desert camouflage and peer through the scopes of a Bradley to see U.S. troops building schools and playing with children in Iraq. In the museum's Grand Hall, a glass-walled room carries the names and pictures of the hundreds of infantry soldiers who have been awarded the Medal of Honor for bravery in combat.
Hello, I'm General Colin Powell, and I've just visited for the first time the wonderful new National Infantry Museum. It is a marvelous facility that pays tribute to the courage and service and sacrifice of not only the infantry, but of every American soldier. And it is a story that is told here that every American needs to see. I hope you will find time, or your group will find the opportunity, and visit the wonderful new National Infantry Museum.
Hey, thank you. Beyond the walls of the galleries are features that make this much more than a museum. An IMAX theater shows documentaries and Hollywood blockbusters.
The Fife and Drum restaurant offers fine dining at lunch and dresses up a bit with white tablecloths at dinner. You won't want to leave without picking up gifts and souvenirs at the Soldier Store. The museum's 200-acre campus includes a 5-acre parade field, which hosts infantry school graduations every week. Connected to it is World War II Company Street, where 7 buildings have been authentically renovated to represent life during the Army's largest buildup of troops. The chapel and mess hall can be used for services and other gatherings. The headquarters and sleeping quarters on the site were actually used by General George S. Patton prior to his deployment to North Africa.
After your tours of these rich historical landmarks, you'll be able to rest and rejuvenate in one of many fine and affordable Columbus hotels.
The city offers over 4,200 rooms and over 500,000 square feet of flexible meeting space. Log on right now to meetincolumbusga.com and take advantage of our free meeting planning services. Talented, friendly professionals will help you organize a truly memorable event, from hotel reservations to transportation, from meeting space to delicious menu options. The Columbus Convention and Visitors Bureau is at your service, with tour itineraries, welcome bags, attraction guides, and all of the assistance you need to make your military reunion the best ever.
And when you return home, you'll have countless new stories to tell. Come visit Columbus, Georgia, and experience our rich military history, from the past to the present. It's unlike any experience in the country.